Okay, good evening. Running for the State Assembly, 29th District, our candidate Stephanie L. Castro, and Assembly Member Robert Rivas. So in our early toss-up, we decided that we will have for the opening statement a candidate Castro. You'll go first for the opening statement, and you have, I believe, 30 seconds for that. So you can go ahead and begin.
Thank you, Benito Link, for having me, and thank you for everyone being here. My name is Stephanie Castro, and I am running for State Assembly in District 29. I am a wife, a mom, a woman of faith, and an educator by passion. I am running for State Assembly because I want my constituents' voices to be heard on key issues like more parental involvement in their children's education, as well as fighting inflation so you can keep more money in your pockets at places like the gas pump and grocery stores.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Assemblymember Robert Rivas, you may go ahead, and you have 30 seconds to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you. In my 4 years in the State Assembly, I'm very proud of the accomplishments that we've been able to achieve for our region. I have led the successful passage of legislation in areas such as agriculture, farm worker housing, workplace protections, climate mitigation, and some adaptation in the areas of drought resilience, air quality, and extreme heat. But I look forward to ensuring that we continue our work, because certainly we have much work ahead, work to address rising inflation, our local and regional infrastructure and transportation challenges, our worsening drought, our mental health crisis, housing affordability, and homelessness, just to name a few areas. But really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so for our first question, we're going to hand that to Assemblymember Rivas. And you all each have 1 minute to respond. How can the Assembly help cut back red tape so housing projects can be built more quickly and less expensively?
Well, we could certainly help in a lot of ways. I've been very active in this space to reducing red tape, reducing regulation in the housing space, because certainly housing is impacted by affordability. Our affordability crisis has many factors. It's a very complex issue, but the fact that there's so many barriers to erecting, ensuring that we build housing, and a lot of work has been done in this space. Proud to have introduced legislation that was signed by the governor recently to reform the post-entitlement, the building process. Once a project is entitled, it goes through CEQA, it goes through all the local levels of review, and then a developer, a builder must pull permits. And in often cases in these larger urban areas, San Francisco, where housing is needed most, there is major delays, sometimes months, years. And so we recently reformed that process to make it easier, quicker, more efficient to build homes and to get those building permits, so that way housing can be built, and especially our in these urban cores, these job centers where we need housing most.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Candidate Castro, how can the Assembly help cut back red tape so housing projects can be built more quickly and less expensively?
Well, I think in the past it's been a lot easier to build homes. There's been less restrictions. Lately we've had a lot of restrictions that unfortunately the builder has to accept, and so I think cutting back on the restrictions that we're requiring of builders will help. There's also some impact fees that are passed on to the homeowner and the buyer, and I think we can reduce some of those as well. I think that affordable housing is something that we can look to form, and we can always make sure that houses are appropriately built for those who are low income. And we can get them built faster and more efficiently, depending on the size of the home. But we could just reduce some of the restrictions that we imply on homeowners as well as the builders themselves.
Great. Thank you very much. For our second question, again, just to remind you, you have 1 minute to respond, and Candidate Castro, we'll start with you. Students are experiencing mental health issues and are still readjusting from COVID protocols. What can be done to help students recover?
I think starting at maybe at the elementary level and possibly using some of the excess COVID funds that are left over, we can have more counselors available to them at schools. We could start with helping their mental health at schools, so having programs where they are, we're supporting their self-esteem, helping them to have maybe a kindness program where students are kind to one another and just building each other up instead of tearing each other down sometimes. That tends to happen on the playgrounds and that sort of thing. But just using, I think, the COVID funds that could be left over, they could use those to purchase or to fund more counselors, and especially start at a younger age, or even in high school as well. Just have more counselors on hand. Talk to students more, check on them, make sure that they are, functioning in a positive way.
Thank you. Thank you. Assemblymember Rivas, students are experiencing mental health issues and are still readjusting from COVID protocols. What can be done to help students recover?
Well, I think arguably, we are facing the largest mental health crisis that this state has ever seen. And it's our responsibility, and certainly us in the legislature, to lay the groundwork to address it. We must be very, very intentional and open to talking about mental health and pursuing solutions. And we have solutions, a model at our own high school, Seminary High School, where they've opened up a wellness center to support students. We have to think very differently about how we are providing services to students, especially in rural areas where it's not a level playing field. I had the opportunity to work as a student support manager at Seminary High School. I'm a lifelong resident. The environment at the high school was different than when I was a student there. The way we approach and address and provide services to students has to be done differently. It's a different landscape, and we've got to do a better job, and it all starts with resources, ensuring that schools have the resources to provide unique and tailored programs to the needs of the student body.
Thank you. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and with our third question. Assemblymember Rivas, you can start with this again. Farmers say agencies have contradictory laws. What can be done to simplify agricultural agencies and regulations within the state?
That's a great question. I've worked very closely with many of these regulatory agencies as chair of agriculture. I've had the opportunity to chair agriculture for the last couple of years. And so we have worked very closely with all these agencies. The secretary, we're very lucky as a state to have Karen Ross as the secretary of the California Department of Food and Agriculture. We've been working closely with her to create this kind of one-stop shop center. A lot of our farmers, big or small, the ones that struggle the most are our small farmers, medium-sized farmers, family farmers. They don't have the high-priced consultants, the legal team to navigate the bureaucracy that they face in applying for funding, in trying to understand regulatory rules. And so what we've done is, rather than have these agricultural entities go from agency to agency, we want to create a one-stop shop where they're going and have one application, meet with one representative, so that way all the information is streamlined and it's efficient for them and made very easy moving forward.
Thank you. Candidate Castro, farmers say agencies have contradictory laws. What can be done to simplify agricultural agencies and regulations within the state?
Well, I believe that we can help our farmers by just not having so many regulations on them. Although I'm not a politician, I would definitely reach across the aisle and rely on my staff to coordinate with other state agencies. I am, it's a learning curve, so I would be learning from farmers and learning what they want and listening to them and hearing them out. But, I definitely know that water is an issue, and we need to make sure that we can create some water retention facilities or areas where they can, have use of water, and that they won't be so over-regulated and, burdened with not being able to grow for our families. We need that water to flow so that we can provide for our families and we can, not see our prices raised in the grocery stores either.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, each candidate will have 45 seconds to respond to any of the points brought up by the other candidate. Candidate Castro, you can go ahead and respond.
Well, as I said, I am not a politician. I'm grassroots from the ground up. So I'm not, polished in, my, my knowledge. But I will reach across the aisle to other representatives and lawmakers in order to get things done. I want to make a positive impact on my community, and I want to make sure that things are done that maybe weren't done so well lately. And so I just really want to reach across the aisle and be the person to help my community and help everyone feel like they matter and that they're not living paycheck to paycheck like I hear a lot of my constituents are doing. So I just want to be a positive voice for them.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Assemblymember Rivas, you may go ahead and respond to any points brought up by the other candidate.
I don't have any response to any points.
Okay. Now each candidate will have 30 seconds for a closing statement. We'll go ahead and start with Assemblymember Rivas.
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of San Benito County. I'm the grandchild of a farm worker who came here in the early 60s to build a better life. As a former member of the San Benito County Board of Supervisors and now as your representative in the California State Assembly, it's been an honor to represent the community that has given me and my family so much. This is my home. My wife and I are raising our daughter here, and I remain committed to making a positive difference for the communities I represent, to making a positive difference for San Benito County, to do all I can to make our region, to make our state a better place for all people, and ensuring that the doors of opportunity remain open for the next generation. Thank you so much.
Candidate Castro, you will have 30 seconds for a closing statement.
Thank you once again to Medina Link for having me this evening and for the opportunity to address key issues facing our communities. I want to be the one fighting in Sacramento, listening to my constituents and solving these problems and more. I look forward to collaborating with fellow lawmakers and using the expertise of my constituency to learn from. I want to create a positive change using common sense values to do better than what's been done before. I will fight for parental rights and education, focus on creating water storage, and will fight inflation in this down economy. My name is Stephanie Castro, and I'm running for State Assembly, District 29. I appreciate your support in November.
Thank you.